Wuthering Waves players have been in a love and hate relationship with one system in particular. Echoes. As one of the most unique takes on gear we've seen in gacha gaming, with mobs across the overworld dropping endgame equipment, a lot of players' complaints were instead focused on another part of the equation: the experience and the tuners. It's clear that the measures Kuro took to solving these material shortages worked for most players. A little more than 5 months into the launch of the game, many have a wide variety of different characters armed to the teeth with a fair number of double crit rolls, fantastic ER, and whatever else you need to make your characters pop and demolish endgame content. By giving out so many of these materials across the game's events and achievements, they've solved one part of the problem. However, there's still something from version 1.0 that we haven't seen updated at all, even though there have been plenty of opportunities to do so across the game's map expansions, and that's Tacet fields and Sonata sets themselves. Grinding echoes for hours a day in the overworld was something that had a lot of appeal back in the early versions of the game, but as time has gone on and players' inventories are building up with locked pieces, this appeal has only gotten lower and lower. And for the average player, Tacet fields and events are the main ways to get new echoes. It's safe to say there are a lot of opportunities for quality of life here, specifically for Tacet fields, and not just from increasing the rewards. Today we'll be diving into what exactly these opportunities are. Some Tacet fields are strictly better than others, depending on the state of your account, and from a design perspective, their built-in restrictions don't make very much sense at all, especially given the relative freedom of choice players have across every other upgrade system in the game. Kuro's already simplified a lot when it comes to the open-world gacha RPG experience from Genshin Impact, but there are still some relics it wouldn't hurt to wash away. As always, if you're enjoying this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. All attributes in Wuthering Waves weren't made equal, at least when it came to the design of Tacet fields. There are some attributes, for some arbitrary reason, that can only be farmed from a single field, oftentimes with an accompanying Sonata set that isn't very much used to the player. Arrow is easily the biggest offender here, and was, in all honesty, one of the worst feeling Tacet fields that any player could farm. That's because Jian was the first limited banner in the game, and there was no actual user of the Glacio set that Arrow is paired with other than Ling Yang, who was, and kind of still is, one of the worst DPS characters in the game. While Tacet fields were horribly inefficient if you farmed them the second they were unlocked at UL 39, it's where a lot of players are farming their echoes in the present. And now, with the re-release of Jian, a lot of players are starting to feel this pain again. However, Arrow's not the only Sonata set that's getting screwed over, especially generalist sets like Moonlit Clouds, which cannot be actively farmed unless you're willing to pick up Havoc damage pieces. These restrictions are extremely arbitrary, and make a lot of sets, and in turn, limited characters, feel far more inefficient than others, with a lot more waste and less opportunities for great encounters with RNG. The problems get even worse when you see how other attributes are getting treated. Attributes like Electro and Fusion are easily some of the best possible sets to farm, and had multiple limited releases right after another with Changli and Zhangli Yao. You could farm for both of these characters with a single Tacet field, and hitting multiple attribute damage rolls on the right set was some of the greatest dopamine hits you could have in this game. These two sets even had other options as well, like Fusion with the healer set and Electro with the Glacio set, which begs the question, why are some Tacet fields and attributes so much easier or better to farm than others? Wuthering Waves, in its resource farming, did away with a lot of the inconveniences we had in Genshin Impact. You don't have to wait a specific day of the week to level a character. You don't have to crawl around the overworld just to grind money or experience. And you don't have the headache of dealing with secondary boss materials to level up characters. Why not remove the frustration of good gear getting paired with gear you don't actually want? The fact of the matter is that there were a few lost opportunities with the multiple map expansions we've had since version 1.0. With all the massive areas added with Mount Firmament and the Black Shores, Kuro could have added more Tacet fields with even more blends of Sonata sets to even out the treatment of different attributes. There's no reason why in version 1.3 that Arrow, Spectro, and Havoc should only have one farmable Tacet field when all of the other attributes have two. It would be an amazing gift to players to have more sets farmable alongside Moonlit Clouds or Rejuvenating Glow, especially when we've had the recent releases of Jeja and Shorekeeper and the very likely upcoming rerun of Yinlin, who all use these sets. Lining up a new character release with Tacet fields that benefit their intended teams would be an amazing incentive for players that isn't just adding materials right into their inventory. How fantastic would it have been for a Spectro and Moonlit Clouds Tacet field to drop alongside Jeja, or an Arrow and Moonlit one for Jian? There are plenty of locations spread across the entirety of Mount Firmament and the Black Shores that could house these new Tacet fields, and there are plenty of TDs roaming these areas. And Kuro could even increase immersion even more by incorporating their map-specific unique enemy designs across these Tacet fields, like the red digital fragments we see in the Black Shores, or the holographic TDs in Mount Firmament. These areas are easily some of the most beautifully designed in the game, but the fact of the matter is that there's no actual reason to go back to these sections of the map once you've completed exploration, other than the occasional daily quest or event. Giving players the opportunity to spend more wave plates in these new regions would be a fantastic way of highlighting their additions even more, as the only thing you can spend them on right now are boss challenges. Kuro's done an incredible job with their recent world design. Why not add more incentives to experience it through quality of life? At this point in the game, it is incredibly likely that a player has multiple 5-piece sets fully built for their roster, and with equipment completely shareable even in time-gated endgame content, that makes many of these existing Tacet fields feel even more wasteful, especially when others give you the opportunity to build two characters at once. Even if you recycle unwanted echoes, most players will hold onto every single on-set attribute damage 3 cost, and as the months have gone by with no character to use them on, this inventory is building up. Of course, there's also the chance that Kuro has a lot of these updates lined up, but just for a future version. The cat is out of the bag with their most recent developer Twitter post, as the version following 1.4 will introduce a brand new area that's defined as a true co-creation between Kuro and the player community. It wouldn't be a surprise at all if this new region introduced a lot of these suggested changes, new materials, and new, more specific Sonata sets, but that doesn't mean our older areas can't get a little bit of love too. Kuro has the opportunity to trade 2 birds for 1 stone here, get more attention on the amazing work they've done across Mount Firmament and the Black Shores, and get rid of the arbitrary restrictions across Sonata sets that make some of them feel a lot worse to farm than others. It's a win-win, to me at least. Let me know how you'd feel about a change like this, and if you think it's worth suggesting on the next player's survey. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Peace out.